I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the August 17th, 2017 meeting of the Shawnee County Board of Commissioners. My name is Bob Archer. I currently have the honor of serving as chair of the commission and represent District 3 alongside Commissioner Shelley Bueller, who represents District 1, and Commissioner Kevin Cook, who represents District 2. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, everyone. First item, please.
Unfinished business, number 1, consider authorization and execution of Contract C-254, 2017, addendum to Contract C-70, 2017, with Mohan Construction and Slemons Associates, increasing the contract price for the work on the northwest parking lot by $61,794 for a total of $499,794 due to running all light pole power in the underground conduit and for additional excavation of the subgrade, which was replaced with large size rock.
Good morning, Commissioners. Bill Kroll, Facilities Maintenance Director. This item was deferred from a couple of weeks ago. Speaking to it, I would say that I think you should approve it, and the reason I think you should approve it is despite the fact that there's some dollars involved, we would have faced that no matter what contractor was involved in it. And we have still saved some money based on going with the lowest bidder to the next bidder. So that $60,000 plus would have been there probably no matter what because of the condition of that subgrade. The project has kind of ground to a halt now because of the northeast parking lot. We did do some samples there and found some voids and are holding off until we get a comprehensive report from GeoSource telling us how we should proceed on that. So as of last week, I said, okay, let's stop, regroup, and see what we need to do on the northeast lot. Steve Mohan is here to answer any questions. I'm here to answer any questions you may have regarding this issue.
Commissioner Cook.
All things being equal, you are right. It did come in less than what the next highest bid is, even with the additional amount. I think there is a disagreement as to whether or not there was weather delay with the subcontractor of Mohan, whether or not they could have gotten to the northeast parking lot in a more timely manner. I'm going to move approval of the change order because it does meet the terms of the contract. But I strongly urge you as the facilities manager to stay on top of our contractor to make sure we don't have any other unnecessary delays
Okay.
with the northeast parking lot. So that is a motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Motion made to approve the contract by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Steve. Next item, please.
Consent agenda.
There are 10 items on the consent agenda. Are there questions or comments?
No questions, I'll move approval.
Second.
Motion made to approve the consent agenda by Commissioner Bueller, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item, please.
New business, A, County Clerk, number 1, consider all voucher payments.
Commissioners, this morning we have vouchers that total $1,372,370.08. The highlights out of that are the payment to Capers of $291,060.78, A.M. Coron and Sons for the Wheeler Bridge of $445,629.17, State of Kansas for holding accounts with motor vehicle of $107,530.03, solid waste of $191,383.25, and finally health insurance premiums of $54,581.18. Those make up the majority of the vouchers. I do not have any questions regarding them and would move for their approval.
Second.
Motion made to approve the vouchers by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Number 2, consider correction orders.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Motion made to approve the correction orders by Commissioner Bueller, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item, please.
Item B, District Court. Number 1, consider purchase of a vehicle for court services from Laird Noller Ford in a total amount of $25,460 with funding from the fiscal year 2017 budget.
Good morning, Charles Hyde of his District Court. On August 10th, we came before this board and asked for permission to deviate from the bid process to purchase a replacement vehicle, which you authorized. Before going to the bidder for state contract pricing, we gave Laird Noller an opportunity to bid on this in the hope that we could get a better price and keep the dollars local. They did give us a better price at $25,460, which is a total savings of $7,527 from the original bid price. So we ask that you give us permission to proceed with this purchase.
Questions for Chuck?
I'll move approval, move approval of the purchase.
I'll second.
Motion made to approve by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. Thanks for saving taxpayer dollars.
Thank you very much.
Next
You're welcome.
item, please.
Item C, corrections. Number 1, consider approval of request to solicit qualifications for design work and modifying the former water tower housing and food service dry storage, former food service area, and booking port transport areas in the adult detention center at an estimated cost of $40,000 from the capital outlay fund.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tim Phelps, Department of Corrections. This item is our attempt to intelligently make use of some areas that have been vacated in our physical plants in the original building so that we might be able to improve them to make our services more efficient. I could go into detail with you if you'd like, but essentially it's an attempt to get a study so that we can make use of the former food service and some other areas to improve booking and other facilities.
Good. I have no questions. I'll move approval. of the
Second.
request.
Okay. Motion made to approve by Commissioner Bueller, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries 3-0. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Next item, please,
Number
Cindy.
2, consider emergency purchase of security equipment to replace equipment damaged by a storm in an amount of $11,104.06 from the contingency fund.
Good morning, Commissioners. Eve Kendall, Department of Corrections. Before you have a request that we had a storm in June, if you remember. There was some damage. We unfortunately sustained some lightning damage. It damaged some of our security equipment, our camera system. We went through the process, determined what it was. We had to replace some equipment due to that storm, and we're requesting to use contingency funds. We have talked to Ms. Greiner, and she says it's okay within the parameters of the contingency fund, so here I am, ready to answer any questions you might have.
Questions for Eve?
I have none.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Motion made to approve by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eve. Next item, please, Cindy.
Item D, information technology. Number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C-267-2017 with Superion, amendment to contract C-231-2007 to provide 8 hours of support and 4 hours of administrator training to upgrade the Cognos reporting system currently in use in the One Solution platform at a cost of $2,700 with funding from the One Solution project budget.
Good morning, Commissioners. Pat O'Bliner with the Information Technology Department. Back in earlier in July, the Commission approved some training for the Cognos report writing system. This is the software that people can use within Shawnee County to create reports within our financial management system. We found that there's going to be an upgrade to the version of Cognos that we were going to be doing some training on. That version is going to happen in March of that version change is going to happen in March of next year, and this is due to end of support from IBM, who builds the Cognos platform. What we're asking for today is to go ahead and do that upgrade now rather than wait until we're forced to in March of next year, so that we can get that upgrade done, and that way the training that's offered in October will be for the new version of the Cognos platform. And so we don't have to come back later and redo the training at a later date. So with your approval, we'd like to go ahead and do the upgrade at this point. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract.
Second.
Motion made to approve by Commissioner Archer, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item,
Thank you,
please.
Commissioners.
Thank you,
Item
Pat.
B, Sheriff's Office. Number 1, acknowledge receipt of correspondence from Sheriff Jones regarding payment of invoices from the insurance proceeds job ledger to be reimbursed when the insurance claim is settled for replacement of a patrol vehicle, canine equipment, and medical and veterinarian expenses resulting from a traffic accident on July 11, 2017.
Good morning, Commissioner. Herman Jones, Sheriff, Shawnee County. What you have here is really just what we're trying to do is consolidate everything into the bills that will be coming in. As you realize and understand that we had one of our K-9 officers that was injured while positioned out on I-70. And because of that, when the insurance and the doctor bills and all the things come in, they kind of come in separately. Instead of come back to you over and over and over, we're just trying to consolidate it into one. And anything that needs to be reimbursed will come in on the same ledger and just work with that. It's just trying to be a little more efficient on that right there. So, any questions? Yes, there's Betty.
Betty Greiner, Director of Administrative Services. I just wanted to add that this is our kind of our normal practice on insurance claims. They run through a separate fund so that the expenses and the reimbursement from the insurance is run through that specific thing. So we make sure that, just it's our checks and balances for all those insurance claims. So this is what we would routinely do, but generally there's not this many different expenses.
Questions?
I'll move to acknowledge receipt of correspondence.
I'll second that.
Motion made to acknowledge receipt by Commissioner Bueller, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Sheriff. Next item, please.
Item F, elections. Number 1, consider payment of an invoice in an amount of $30,000 to the Office of the Kansas Secretary of State for the 2017 Elvis Workstation fees with funding from the 2017 election office budget.
Good morning, Commissioners. Andrew Howell, Shawnee County Election Commissioner. Just requesting payment of the fees for Elvis. That is the election voter information system that we use in the office to do most of the voter registration work. Like we said, these fees are assessed to counties based on their prorated portion of the state's total of registered voters for this county. Those fees were previously included in and had been paid from the IT budget, and then that was transferred to us back in 2015. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer those.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made to approve by Commissioner Archer, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item, please.
Item G, facilities maintenance. Number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C-268, 2017 with Veritiv Corp. for purchase of paper, plastic, and other consumable items at various prices with funding from the 2017 facilities maintenance budget.
Bill Kroll, Facilities Maintenance Director. One item on that would be that it would not all come from the facilities maintenance budget. This would be a county-wide purchase. Each department and agency would be responsible for their own consumable item purchase. We did go out for RFP recently because county-wide a lot of different vendors were supplying paper products. We thought we'd have better luck if we consolidated that to give all of our business to one vendor. Veritiv came back clearly the lowest of 9 vendors that we had submit to us, and look forward to maybe using them in the future and saving us some money. We think we could save somewhere between the tune of $5,000 and $10,000 a year countywide by consolidating this. Answer any questions you might have.
Any questions?
No.
I'll move for approval.
I'll second.
Motion made to approve by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries 3-0. Thank you for saving taxpayer dollars. Next item, please.
Number 2, consider acceptance and approval of a certificate of substantial completion regarding reconstruction of the northwest parking lot as prepared by Slemons and Associates Architects.
Morning, Commissioners. Bill Kroll again. This item is in relation to the parking lot out on the northwest side, which that project actually was much more inclusive than just the parking lot. As you recall, there was issues in the EOC, issues with the fuel oil tank, the nuclear blast baffles and things that were originally built within this courthouse for that emergency operations center. So it was a somewhat complicated project, but we're substantially complete on that corner of the building. The only thing left in this phase of that project would be the northeast lot, which, as I explained earlier, we've kind of pulled the plug on until we get more data on the subgrade of that particular lot. There's a punch list that was attached. Mohan has worked and has probably 50% of that particular punch list already corrected. So basically it's an acceptance that the warranty period starts August 2nd. That's what we're saying. So answer any questions you might have.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion made to approve by Commissioner Bueller, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Next item, please.
Item H, County Counselor. Number 1, update on judicial tax foreclosure proceedings.
See if I can get this going. Good morning, Commissioners. Megan Barrett, County Counselor's Office. Third time's a charm. I'm finally here to talk to you about tax sales. Just want to give you a brief update on the most recent tax foreclosure lawsuit that we're just now wrapping up. Oh, I'm sorry.
This other one on for you.
Oh, there you go. I don't know how this stuff works. So yeah, just briefly, last year we did file a lawsuit at the Commission's approval. We had filed 166 properties on that. 7 were dismissed for various legal reasons. 112 were redeemed, meaning the owners or a mortgage company or someone came in, paid off all the taxes in full, so we wouldn't sell it. And then we eventually sold 46 at our auction that was held on April 28th. It was a very well-attended auction. It went very smoothly, especially considering 3 of the 5 employees we had there had never been at an auction before, and that included Mr. Crowell. He usually was the one who stayed behind and manned the office while we went, but he had to come this year, so hopefully he had a good time. So the total distribution on that that we got collected total was $1,063,219. As you can see, $807,000 of that was paid toward taxes. The $27,000 was reimbursed. Those were our actual costs to get title reports, published in the paper, copies, what have you. And then $31,000 was reimbursed to the county's general fund as just indirect expenses. How do we do this? Oh, here we go. Clicker. No? Turn it on. There we go. There we go. I did want to talk to you briefly just about tax foreclosures in general. We get a lot of calls from the public, but also from people who work in the county in various departments that just have questions about the tax sale. So I wanted to just let people know, because a lot of people have misconceptions. As soon as someone is 1 year behind, they think, why aren't you foreclosing on them? So just to get some brief information on that, Kansas statutes do establish the sliding schedule of when we can foreclose on a property. So if it's a homestead property, meaning the owner lives there, it's their primary residence, we have to wait until they're 3 years behind on their taxes before they could be put in a sale. Other property, mostly, other than that, it's 2 years, so commercial buildings, the person who owns it doesn't live there, vacant land. But then also there's a caveat that if abandoned buildings, 1 year, we can foreclose. And that's been helping us out a lot with working with the city when we're trying to identify abandoned vacant buildings that are just deteriorating, they're falling down, there's people scavenging them and things like that. So we've been working with the city on that to try to identify those and working. And I like to put these little maps in here. Lee Allen, thank you very much for putting these all together for me. But over the last 5 years, this is kind of all the properties that we have sold in a tax sale. That's 296 properties. So that's within all around the county. As you can see, a majority of them, 246, or within the city limits, and that's kind of just a scattering of where they are all located. And then the vacant abandoned properties that we have been selling with the help of the city, we were able to sell 18 of those so far in the last 2 years. And yeah, just collectively since 2012, we have brought in approximately $6.8 million, and 5.6 million of that has been applied directly to delinquent taxes. So, any other questions regarding tax sales?
And what was the number from 2012 again? I'm not sure I heard that correctly.
The money that we brought in since
Yes.
2012, $6.8 million total,
$6.8 million.
with $5.6 million of that going directly towards delinquent taxes.
Good, thank you.
All right.
Commissioner
So
Bueller.
our last sale was in April. Did we have one coming?
The last auction that we held was April 28th. We're getting ready to file another lawsuit probably in late September, early October. And then that sale will take place probably next summer. It takes about that long to get, the process to get everyone served and notified takes quite some time, so.
Commissioner Cook.
Thank you, Megan, for everything you do on that.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Administrative Services, number 1, discussion of 2018 budget, Public Works, Law Enforcement, Elections.
Good morning. Betty Greiner, Director of Administrative Services, here to continue our discussions on the 2018 budget. I will pull our spreadsheet up here. Today we are scheduled to discuss the departments in the category of law enforcement, public works, and then also the elections office.
Start with the elections office. Betty, if we could.
Okay. Let me move up to that.
And if I understand correctly, we're sort of on a 2-year cycle with the elections office. So what we really look at is what we spent in 2016, which was $1,410,000. The 2017 budget was $1 million, which is a down year for the elections office. The actual request from the elections office was $1,665,000. But as we normalize from 2016, including all the increases for CBIZ and everything else that is considered, we have a number of $1,333,000.
Yes,
Is that correct?
that's correct.
Okay. Commissioner Cook, I know you had some issues or some questions to discuss.
Well, I think that before, we have a difference of opinion, maybe, different positions between the 2018 starting budget and the 2018 requested budget of about $302,000. Is that?
330.
330.
Mhm.
Okay. I know that our elections commissioner is present in the chambers. If I can maybe ask Mr. Howell to maybe clarify an issue for me, if he would, please.
More than happy to clarify. I think it would probably be a good practice if during our budget hearing you go ahead and ask questions. So, like I said, I'm more than happy to answer questions. I've given you guys my cell phone for a reason, but sure, let's do it today.
Okay.
Sure, let's do it today.
Of the budget that was submitted of $1,665,424, is there any part of that that you would be willing to compromise or reduce?
I'm always willing to sit down with commissioners and talk about what is possible. I think part of the difficulty for us has been in the conversations I've tried to have with commissioners in the past. I think you've made it pretty clear that you're not flexible. That's my perspective, and maybe that's not true, but that you're not flexible on a number of the things that I can't predict perfectly. You know, with every election's different. I never know how many people are going to file. I never know how long the ballot's going to be. I never know. There's just a lot of unknowns, and so I guess depending on the willingness of the county to be flexible and trying to figure out and come down to those kind of determinations. And again, you can't really do that, so you have to put those things in there early. I'm willing to have a conversation about it, absolutely.
Well, if we look at the submitted budget, again, we have a difference of $330,000.
I haven't seen any numbers, so I don't know how you came to those numbers. So we didn't have any discussions during the budget hearing itself. So if we have a difference, I've not seen those numbers. I'm not aware of how you got to those numbers. So I can't really have a logical conversation at this point about it, unless you want to go through and just explain what the differences are specifically.
Commissioner Archer, any thoughts?
Well, essentially what we did was we took the 2016 budget and normalized that to 2018, added CBIZ compensation and other expenses that would be appropriate. Betty it's what we've done for every department, not elections, but every department.
I would add, and again, I think some untrue statements were made in the press as it relates to the CBIZ study, because as you all know, I received a document from you that said that your plan was to pay me personally at the rate that your own study said I should be. And this was not my number. The press made it appear that I put my number that I was requesting. I didn't request that number. That was a number that was generated by your study. I can't tell by looking at this if my salary increase that your study called for is in there or not. I don't know. That was part of your CBIZ study. I'm guessing you've pulled it out because in public statements that you've made, you said that you weren't going to fund that. But then I also read statements in the press that say that you are going to fully fund the CBIZ study. So I don't know. I don't know what you're going to do or how you're doing it. I can't tell from this.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner Cook.
Well, the CBIZ study is a guiding document. It's not a controlling document. We still have a level of discretion. If we were to look at some of our departments, we have discovered that we are under mark, and so we need to come up, and there were some that we were over that we need to reduce down. But as a department head, and you would be considered in the role of a department heads came under a separate resolution. And I think that there was some issues that came up last year during the budget cycle where you came over the budget that was established by the county commission. And the one part of the statute that clarifies the role of the county commission is that your salary is to be set at an amount in excess of $10,000. It doesn't establish how much above $10,000, but that is the one of the checks and balances between our two bodies.
And I agree with that the county does have the authority to set it. The county has never sent me a statement. Since Betty sent me the plan as to how that was going to occur, I've never received a follow-up statement saying that I need to change that budget amount that Betty sent me. So I've never gotten any documentation from you saying that you were planning to change that. So that's why I put it in there, because the most recent document I got said that the new amount that we were targeting for my salary, and again, I absolutely understand that the statute says that you set the salary. I've never questioned that. That's never been an actual question mark. I'm just saying I think the communication could be improved as it relates to what your plan is on that. The most recent document I've got as it relates to my salary, and again, I don't know if that's in here or not. I'm talking about it because it's part of the issue. But that also goes back, I think, to another conversation that we had about the statute that specifically says that the county shall include the election commissioner certified budget in the county budget. And as you know, an attorney general's opinion has recently been released that says that that is a correct assessment of that statute, and that that is what the statute says, and that shall actually does mean shall. So I hope at some point that we can have a public conversation about that statute, and if cutting my salary is based upon a a lack of accuracy in the way the county is proceeding on not including that budget in the county budget, that we can look at that again and say, maybe we shouldn't have cut the election commissioner's salary. And again, I'm kind of working off of no facts here, because I don't know what you have or haven't included in here.
Well, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner.
Commissioner Howell, my first question to you was whether or not you would be willing to, or if there was any part of the requested amount you would be willing to work from. And now, there's two ways we can resolve this today. We can resolve this by having a healthy conversation instead of making comments and being passive-aggressive about it, or we can go upstairs with the court and resolve it. I would much rather us have a healthy discussion here today. And so, of the requested amount, the $1,665,424, is there an ability in your office to say, we would be willing to compromise, or we can come into a lesser amount? Because that's the same discussion we've had with every single department head. Mr. Knight, as the Director of Parks and Rec, asked for an increase of $2 million. We don't have $2 million to give to Mr. Knight. We've allocated $300,000. He's not going to be able to do everything he would want to do. So, and sorry, that's what you get for sitting on the front row.
Well, I'm always, and I've tried to say this, I think, every way I can. I'm always willing to sit down and talk with any county commissioner, because at the end of the day, I think we do have an obligation to try to work together. I've made phone calls, I've reached out, I've tried to have meetings. I actually asked each of you that would meet with me, can we sit down ahead of time and try to actually come up with something that we can agree on? Because I think it is important to try to find common ground. I was told, no, we're not willing to do that. So early on, that was certainly the signal I got. I'm always willing to sit down and talk about it. I don't know that going through every line item and every detail here today is realistic, because I don't know what's in here. I can't tell. So I'm willing to have a conversation about it anytime, anywhere. I'm fine with that. But I can't tell from this exactly what we're talking about yet either.
For the third time, is there any part of the $1,665,424 that you have submitted that you think you might be willing or able to reduce?
Mark, do you want to address anything related to that? I'm sitting here trying to figure out if there's, again, if the question is, did I put together an inaccurate document, the answer is no. I think it actually does reflect all of the possible costs that we're going to have in the office. But Mark may have thought of something I haven't thought of.
Morning, Commissioners. Mark Stock, Shawnee County Election Office. I think that, Commissioner, to answer your question, when we're building the budget, we obviously are trying to take a look at 2018, try to predict the races, the number of candidates. You can look at the governor's race, how many folks have filed, how many folks have talked about filing. So is everything in every budget, whether it's Mr. Knight's or Mr. Vlock's or ours, that's set in concrete that we know for 100% sure that we're going to have? No, none of us can do that, because the budget is a planning document, as you well know. And so we have done our best efforts in trying to plan. Is there room for flexibility? I think that there potentially could be, but I can't, without knowing more of what you're thinking and having a real discussion about that, I don't know that I can answer that any differently or better.
That's what we're getting to, is that flexibility. And, I mean, if Mr. Vlock submitted a budget, part of his budget request talks about replacing all of the roads, or doing, we may not be able to, that's a want versus what he needs to be able to do. And so I look at every budget as a want, and an ideal world and an ideal circumstance. And so if we were to look at what is it that we must do versus what we would like to do. So out of the $1,665,424, is there something in there that is something that we would want to do, but we required to do, or we might be able to not do this year, but we would be able to do next year?
To answer that question, Commissioner, I would probably answer it this way. Again, with the planning document, there's always dialing of things that get us to that number. And certainly we know that elections are a core function of county government. County must conduct elections. Might not necessarily do a park improvement or some other kind of capital improvement in parks. Same with Mr. Block. Obviously, that's a core county function, and you need to do certain things, but obviously scaling back different projects. Elections, I guess, would be kind of similar to that, but what we don't know is what we don't know that's coming up, so we try to do our best planning. I think where some of the, I'll say, gun shyness comes in is that in 2016, when the body was approached and the county councilor was discussed about, hey, look, we think we're going to be real close, we might be over, and the discussion was, well, we have contingencies to take care of that, and then there was this public brouhaha about missing the budget. It kind of makes it a little gun shy to say, well, is there something else going on? And we certainly hope not, because as Commissioner says, we want to certainly make sure that we put together the best elections budget for Shawnee County that we can.
Well, one area that occurred in the 2016 budget was the amount of cost for employees and the amount of overtime that actually was incurred with the office. And I think that's one area of concern that we had many discussions on, was trying to eliminate that overtime in upcoming years, trying to do a better job of management of our resources.
Yeah, and I would like to address that. I'm glad you brought that up, because for a lot of folks, until you work in the election industry, you really don't have an idea about the amount of overtime it takes. If you look back historically, the election office always, I mean, we budget 500 hours of overtime per each of our classified employees. We budget that. And certainly, you know, two of our department heads are here, and they put in the most overtime.
Right.
They will tell you that it's critically important to be able to do that, because you certainly don't want to hire an intermittent or some election board worker that we pay $7.25 to send out federal service ballots, because you have to get those right. We have no room for error on ballots, on waiting on our customers, which are voters.
But you have one of those employees who worked in excess of 20 hours in one day.
Absolutely.
That's 20 hours in one day. That's more than we would demand of any other department head, and so it comes back to better management of resources. That's your department. That's your department to run, and so.
And you will notice. Oh, sorry.
That's been the discussion between the commission: is how do we manage those resources? So,
well, you will notice that even when Commissioner Libby Inslee Deidler was here, we were running overtime like that. It's the nature of the business, and if anybody wants to come down and sit beside us, and when we're finishing up processing voters for early voting, and then we have to turn around and get mail ballots out, and then do federal service ballots, and prepare for voting for the next day, it's not something you can leave to just anybody, and we are very proud of our staff and their commitment to Shawnee County and for working those hours. And we've got two of them here, and if you want to come up and have them come up and talk about overtime, we'd love to have them come up here and talk to you about our overtime. We don't necessarily want to work all those hours, and certainly Andrew and I work those same hours with them, but we're salaried, and we work those same hours, but we know the job has to be done. And so, but yeah, we can bring them up here and talk about overtime if you'd like it. But to say this, I also have a commitment that I'm working with Angela Lewis coming up, so we can examine that. And certainly, we've made a commitment to Commissioner Bueller that we are looking at our staffing levels and our overtime as a part of that. And so we are doing that. And Angela and I have been having some communications about getting together to look at overtime and see what is possible.
So I did hear you say that there might be some flexibility in that $1,665,424. Maybe, but you're a little bit gun shy on committing to where that flexibility may be.
Well, and again, I would phrase it this way, Commissioner, is that because of what happened in 2016 and the public comments and about, then we could have just put the contingencies in there and taken care of that, and there wouldn't have been an issue. But what if something comes up in 18 and the flexibility, then it would appear that we didn't meet the county's budget, then what comes out of that? Is there a sting back from that? So I probably have to leave it at that.
Commissioner Bueller.
The county commission, we can only be together to have a discussion in public. We're required by law. So as far as conversations individually, I think you did meet individually with the commissioners, but collectively, we have to have that public discussion.
Certainly.
So that's why we're having a public discussion today, okay? We are the only checks and balances between your certified budget and the approved budget.
So-called certified budget.
Well, but I don't know if we're going to get to resolution today or in the near future, and I don't know what number we're going to set, but the problem arose from, you're right, over budget. We knew that was going to be an issue throughout the year, but it was going to be a smaller amount. It was a much larger amount. And only then did this discussion come about of the certified versus the approved budget. And so here we are today. I don't have any solutions. I appreciate that you are looking at staffing, but the $1.6 million is, if we were to approve that, that would probably be the most that would be allocated to elections ever, correct?
I'd have to
I'm pretty comfortable it is, but I think we should emphasize that the big difference, we're running a relatively flat budget. If you look at the actual numbers since 2008, we are relatively flat except for the recent purchase of software, the increase in Elvis costs, those software costs, and CBIZ. That roughly $200 and some thousand difference is what's making the big jump occur. So again, I can't tell from looking at this how you've done that. So in my opinion, you can't have a super detailed conversation today because I'm looking at numbers. I have no idea how you came to them, how you got there, what's included and what's not.
I think that's been explained, hasn't it? You want me to go? Wait, again, please. I think Commissioner Archer explained it, and I think Betty explained it.
I think it's been over-explained. But
okay, well, for a flat budget, in most cases, I started with the 2017 budget. In this case, I started with the 2016 budget. The increase that Andrew was given in 16, the salary increase he was given in 16, the portion of that hit 2016 increased his 2016 budget by that amount. So I took the 2016 budget, added the 2017 and the 2018 compensation study increases. I also took any department head increases for 17 and included that. And then I calculated the benefits on those salary increases to make sure that we were, increasing it by not only the salaries but the benefits, and then also the health insurance increases that had hit the departments. So adding all of those up is how and then any other adjustments that we had talked about as far as, like the grounds maintenance for Parks and Rec. So those types of adjustments. So that's how I came up with this starting budget.
And so that doesn't include any debt service that we're paying on any of our equipment?
No, it does not. On equipment, buildings. It doesn't include any debt service.
Okay.
which is truly a cost.
I didn't hear any detailed numbers, so I can't really speak to the details because all I heard was big picture, I guess my one question is, you know, as part of the equipment purchase, and again, you might bring that up here, Mark, because I do want to talk about that. Do you have the actual contract costs in the 2016 or 2018 budget for equipment, software? Is that included? Because that's a brand-new item for this year. I think it was
Yes.
included in 17, but I can't tell from this if that software is in there.
Whatever was included in 16 would be included.
Okay, so
If it's not included in 16, it would not.
yeah, no, that's new for this year, so that would need to be included in there.
I don't think it's all new for 16. Is it one that some of it included in, wasn't some of it in 17?
My understanding is, and Mark, you tell me if I'm wrong, my understanding is that the ES&S contract is almost $200,000 in new expense to the county in 2017.
Right, right.
So I'm trying to see is that included in the 18 number?
No, that is not included.
So
in the-
that's an actual expense that the county will have to pay. It is a contract. It's going to have to be included in the budget. There is no flexibility on that. And again, I do want to talk for just 1 minute. I'm disappointed the commissioners couldn't make it to our event the other day, but we did win a national award from the International Association of Government Officials, specifically for the way that we ran the bidding process, the fact that we were inclusive of all of the counties in that. We saved Shawnee County taxpayers over $300,000. I'm proud of that work, and I don't mind saying so. It took a lot of time and a lot of effort to collaborate with other people across the state, and I think commissioners should be commended for being a part of that and signing contracts and recognizing that our equipment was an issue. And again, I'm just going to give commissioners a copy of this. I don't know that you've seen this yet. Here's the national award. Again, this was the same group that Libby was actually the president of. We're very proud of the 2017 Innovator Award and the fact that we saved taxpayers significant dollars as a result of that. So again, I guess my comment is, if the 2018 budget does not include those new, and again, we've saved money on that, but if it doesn't include that, it will need to include that. There's no question in my mind about that.
You know, it's interesting. Usually I see awards given to Shawnee County or departments. This is an individual award. It's very interesting.
Commissioners, if I might address these contract costs. In the 2018 budget, the contract costs for the election equipment and the poll pads total $198,666. In 2016, the amount, which I'm using that as my, starting number, was $15,255. So the difference would be $183,411. Let me get this up again. Oops. Sorry, let me try again. I'm sorry, you can go ahead while you guys are...
Betty, your caps lock's on.
Oh.
Other thoughts, Commissioner? I will make a proposal, if you would give a copy to the clerk and the Elections Commissioner. Tim. What I've done is try to bring some semblance of order to this. And I started out with the election commissioner's budget that has been requested of $1,665,424. I've made adjustments to that request. First of all, I've adjusted the commissioner's salary to actual. In his $1,665,000, he had increased his budget, or his salary, by 51%, up to $91,000. So in order to get to the real salary, it would reduce by $26,426. The second item is eliminate the auto allowance for the elections commissioner. The statute provides the commission the ability to do that. The next item is to add one employee to eliminate overtime, spending tens of thousands of dollars in overtime in the elections office instead of hiring an additional employee or using comp time is just obnoxious. The next item is awesome e-time savings. Our IT department worked with the elections office for many, many months to automate board workers and other compensation items. So that ought to give us the ability to reduce one employee. That saves $26,728. Adjustment of benefits for the wage adjustments above is $22,502. And then finally, it reduced board workers by 1/3. Since the primary that we had a couple of weeks ago, I've heard from many constituents who have said, I had the same experience you did. I walked into the election, to the voting booth, and there were 7 election workers, and I was the only person around for miles. You were absolutely right on that. And the election commissioner predicted a turnout of 12%. He was exactly right. The turnout was very low. It was predicted to be low, and yet the way I calculated, like a back of the napkin calculation, is that we had one full-time elections worker for every 20 voters. Every 20 voters. That's wasteful. That's mismanagement. And the voters, the taxpayers of Shawnee County can't put up with that kind of waste and mismanagement. So I get down to an adjusted budget of $1,472,081 versus the flat budget of $1,333,000. So I would propose adding to the flat budget $138,370. I've also noticed down at the bottom that debt service on the building, there's no more, the elections office doesn't pay rent anymore. We paid for the building, and the debt service on that building is $195,000. The debt service on new elections equipment is $231,000. So tremendous investment in our elections office. We ought to be able to see some return on that investment, and that's what this proposal does. So that's a motion to add $138,370 to the flat elections budget.
I have a question. Betty
Yes,
first.
Commissioner Bueller.
I have a question for Betty. For the 2016 budget, how much was the election? Sorry, yeah, Betty, sorry.
Yes.
For that budget, how much was the election office over budget? Do you remember exactly? Sorry, I'm putting you on the spot.
$85,000.
80, yeah, I was thinking 84,000 and some change.
And for the 2017 budget, is the elections office on budget? Is there an estimate of being over budget for 2017? And that's a question to you, and then
Yeah,
to Commissioner
it's hard to tell because the election is in November. Based on just looking at what his office and I had talked about, and this was probably not even, it was last year or something, we kind of looked at the percentages for each month. Based on that, they're showing that they're over budget this year, but that's a guess on how much is going to hit each month. We've also paid, I believe all of the contracts have been paid for this year, and I'm not sure how those were, if those were in the right months for the percentages also. So it's hard to tell.
But the 85,000 came from where? The general fund covered that amount then?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
There's a motion on the floor.
So, Commissioner Archer, you believe that this is what is necessary then to operate the elections office?
Exactly.
And can I ask too, was this put together with help of our council and our audit finance?
It certainly was.
Okay.
I wasn't brave enough to do it all by myself.
I will second the motion.
Comments?
I think that maybe if we give the elections commissioner, we put this in for now, we give the elections commissioner an opportunity to review this with his staff that he has here. We move on to the law enforcement and the public works and departments, and we can take this back up before we get to the final budget. Again, this is a discussion, and that's what it should be, is it should be a discussion, not so.
Well, a couple of things. One, it will not work to add one employee to eliminate overtime. There are certain tasks that are so technical and so difficult that on occasion it actually does take 20 hours of one person's time in order to make sure it's accurate. An election, we're not mowing grass, not to put down parks because it has to be done, but at the end of the day, if a blade of grass is missed, it doesn't matter. If a voter is missed, it matters a lot. So if it takes 20 hours to get the job done, then that's what we're going to do, and that's what we have to do. That's not optional. So that will not work. I cannot eliminate overtime. We can eliminate some pieces of it, and we can have other people do various functions at different levels, but we've been doing that to get as close as we can already. There's not a lot of flexibility in that. Awesome time savings, I have no idea what that's about, but if you're saying that you can eliminate an employee from the office, that won't work.
No,
I have not increased.
You said it was a tremendous time saver. That's what you said.
I said that Awesome is?
Yes, exactly. You said Awesome was a tremendous time saver for my office.
Yeah,
I can bring out the
and that's fine. Again,
Okay.
we can have a conversation about Awesome It's not complete yet, so when it is complete, I think it will save some time, but I'm not willing to say that we're going to reduce staff by one. Again, we'll see.
You had a
I would
tremendous
also-
letter of recommendation about it.
Yeah, no,
You
I
said
think
it was a
the IT
tremendous time
department's
saver.
working very hard on replacing a program that isn't complete yet. So we used to have some functions that we still don't have because they're still working on it. Also, I would equate it to a lifeguard as it relates to election workers on election day. What I think people probably miss as it relates to how many people does it take to run an election, the actual ebb and flow of people in a voting place changes throughout the day. A lot like a lifeguard at a pool. You have to have a certain number of lifeguards on duty, whether people show up or not, whether they all show up at noon and vote till 1. You just have to have a certain number of people because you have to be ready for when those people show up. Historically, what happens is voters show up between 7 and 8. They show up somewhere between 12 and 1. And then they show up between 5 and 7. So if you show up at a polling place at 9:30, you won't see voters for miles. They're all still at work. They've got jobs to do and schedules to meet. So I don't think you can take anecdotal evidence from showing up at a polling place at 9:30 and try to apply that across the board because it doesn't fit. It doesn't work. We have to be able to process voters when they show up at their polling place. And like I said, that's typically 3 different times throughout the day, but we're staffing to handle that when that occurs. So I'm pretty confident that won't work as well. I'm more than happy to go visit with our staff and come back to you in a few minutes if that's what you'd like. I can do that. if that's your request.
Greatly appreciate that ability. That would be part of a discussion rather than just standing and saying, we can't do it. We can't do it.
But if I can't
But-
do it, I'm going to tell you that. Just like what I did with the 2017 number that you came up with. I said, I don't believe it's doable. But let me also preface this. I have always said, I respect what you do. I respect the difficulty. I respect the fact that these things are real dollars and taxpayers. And just like the award we won for saving real dollars for taxpayers, I take it seriously. And so I'm more than happy to have the conversation, but at the end of the day, we still have to get our job done no matter what.
Well, and I might also add, my experience was the same at 7:30, 7:45. I'm sure Ms. Kendall would know exactly what time I came in to my voting spot, and there were 7 workers there, and I was the only voter at 7:30, 7:45. I'm sure she could verify what time I walked through. But
you have staff all day long. That is constant. right?
Absolutely.
So, but you know people are coming in 7, noon, and 5.
Yeah, you can't dismiss them at 9 and bring them back at noon.
Why?
It's not workable.
Why?
It's not doable because it costs real money.
Why?
Because you can't do it. It's not workable. You can't dismiss people for 3 hours and then tell them to come back, and then dismiss them for 2 hours and then tell them to come back.
People work split shifts on a number of jobs in our community. Okay, thank you, Commissioner Cook. I guess we move on.
Commissioner, we need to add that amount that has been motioned and seconded.
We did not take a vote either,
Yes.
I don't think. Did we?
All
We did not take a vote.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. That was 138, 370.
Okay, I think our next category will be law enforcement. The first department is the counselor's office. They are not asking for a request above the starting budget.
Motion to adopt 631-278.
Second.
Motion to maintain by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries 3-0. Department of
Oh, next one
Corrections.
is Department of Corrections. I'm sorry.
I'll move to appropriate an additional $250,000 at this point for Department of Corrections. And that is as a result of, where's Brian, looking at the mental health initiative, and a phasing in versus the original request was about $700,000. I know there were 3 different levels. That's not even going to get you to the top level. I think it was around $400,000, but that's where I'm at right now.
Yes, ma'am. We went back and initially was looking at some different staffing levels and looking at a company that we went and researched after that, and it was suggested at maybe $700,000. We did go back because obviously we do recognize the needs of the county and that we're not the only department that has challenges, and we were able to go back and meet individually with everyone, and I met with Betty a little bit, talked to Jim regarding, liability stuff and some things about our agency. We understand that, when trying to put together 3 different plans, one with nothing, trying like that, we understand. We are going to be very thankful of what this commission gives us and be able to give us a starting point. Obviously, if it's not the starting point that we want and things like that, means we roll up our sleeves, we work with our company, and we try to figure out what's the best thing we can do, and then just ask that everybody continue to be open and supportive as you always have as we move forward. So if there's any flexibility, obviously, I'll certainly ask, but my deal is that I'm going to be very thankful at this point.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner Cook.
Commissioner Bueller, would you be willing to accept a amendment to your proposal to 300,000? I think that will get us closer. I would be willing to second 300,000. Would you be willing to accept?
Excuse me.
The original, there was option 1, option 2, and option 3. Option 3 was an additional cost of $346,000. And
Well, option, and the one, that option 3 is, I thought that option 2 cost was involved in that. And so option 3 that we gave was closer to 400 and some thousand. It was the 340 plus the 73.
Plus the 73.
Yes, ma'am.
You're right.
Yes.
Okay. I will second for the time being.
I'm going to have to dissent. I think 200,000 gets us the first step. I think we're going a little overboard. But motion made to increase by 300,000 by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor say aye. Opposed say no. No. Motion carries 2-1. Commissioner Archer dissents. Next item, please.
Okay, the next item is the district attorney. We already added the $34,500. That was just for the grand jury court reporter. And that was salary plus benefits.
I would move to appropriate 75,000, yes.
What was the number?
75,000 to the district attorney's budget.
I think that dies for lack of a second. Commissioner Cook, you got a better idea?
We can do 50,000. I know it's still, it's going to be, we have a lot of areas we haven't got to yet, but recognizing the increasing needs of having a good prosecutor's office in Shawnee County. And that may be more than what, again, we haven't got to our sheriff's office yet, we haven't gotten to our public works department yet.
Second the motion for 50.
And I'm going to have to dissent again. I was looking at a number of $100,000, even though I will note that the DA has a number of savings as far as grand jury, diversion, other efficiencies, electronic files, and then payoff from IT efforts that we've had. But I was still looking at 100,000. But the number is 50,000. Motion made by Commissioner Cook to increase by 50,000, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor say aye, opposed say no. Motion carries 2-1. Commissioner Archer dissents. District courts.
The district court is not asking for anything above the starting budget.
Move to maintain.
Second.
Motion made to maintain by Commissioner Bueller, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries 3-0.
Before we leave the area, I would note, and it's been brought up before, there is one item within the district courts that is approximately $80,000 that is for a staff attorney. That is the responsibility of the state of Kansas and was not funded by the Office of Judicial Administration. And that is a responsibility of the state of Kansas that, if not met, leaves our courts at a disadvantage, given that when there's constitutional challenges to statutes, when our most groundbreaking rulings come out of this court first. But that's $80,000 that's being pushed down onto the taxpayers of Shawnee County that if we did not do, would affect the operations of our courts.
Thank you, Commissioner Cook.
The next is drug court. They are asking to maintain the $15,000.
I'll move to maintain.
Second.
Motion made to maintain by Commissioner Archer, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye, opposed no. Motion carries 3-0. Next, please.
Next one is emergency management.
from what I recall, the difference was request for a deputy emergency
Yes.
management personnel.
Yes.
That's the difference in the 360
Yes.
and the 280.
Yes, it's about 81,000.
Right.
So that position with benefits.
I'll move to maintain the 280,000.
Second.
Motion made to maintain the 280,000 by Commissioner Archer, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye, opposed no, motion carries 3-0. Next.
Safe Streets is asking to maintain the 15,000.
Move to adopt 15,000.
I'll second. Motion to maintain by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Archer. All in favor say aye, opposed no, motion carries 3-0. Next, please.
Next is Sheriff. They're asking for about a $830,000 increase.
Commissioner Archer,
Yes, Commissioner Cook.
I know that our sheriff is present, but if I recall correctly, a large amount of the increase comes in capital expenses with equipment and looking at the fleet. I know that we've replaced a number of vehicles
Yes.
over the past several years. I think we replaced approximately 20 vehicles maybe last year, but I know that that's always a concern of the sheriff's office is in the fleet.
Yeah, if you please here. Thank you for this opportunity there. Really, we're trying to stay and maintain as flat as possible. The increases that you see basically are items of safety. We have vests and helmet for our individuals that are coming up on expiration there. And we've got the issue you brought up earlier in our budget hearing. We were talking about the Ford Explorers, where we're beginning to see the issues with the carbon monoxide in those right there. We're realizing that we're going to have to do something replacing those or so. We've got about 13 of those. We talked about radars that are outdated. We haven't been able to purchase radars in almost 20 years, and most of them are now functioning right now. What I would pose of this right here, these types of things, is if we were able to go into capital outlay. We weren't allowed for 2017, but if we were to put these items over there, this would go away, if we could do something like that.
So just a question for Betty. I know
Yes.
we have fairly strict rules when it comes to bonding items. We want to have a longevity,
It has to be a life of 10 years or more.
and so if we were able to, I think that in 2020, our bond debt finally drops down, and so the first prudent time for taking out debt would be in 2020.
Yes.
If we were to look at bonding radars, or that, if we have a life expectancy of 20 years, is that something that we might look at in the future?
It's something we could. We'd have to look
a little farther down the line.
at the life expectancy that is a reasonable life expectancy. I don't know. Usually electronics do not have a life expectancy of 20 years. But I don't know on radar equipment. I have no idea what that is.
Again, I said 20 years. Some of these have been repaired numerous times, and what we're finding is our repair costs are exceeding the cost of a new purchase as well.
May I just add? So the commission has had some discussion at the end of our budget hearings about capital outlay and not just planning 1 year, but looking 5 years. And
Yes.
My understanding is we're going to have that discussion after we finalize budget for 2018. So I would certainly be willing to consider that, yes.
And I also think what the sheriff may have been referring to was the $2 million that we have set aside for 2018 for the capital outlay also. That, that we'll look at that at the end, towards the end of the year. And as you said, we want to come up with a 5-year 5 years forward, looking at the needs, but we will be doing that, and we'll be looking also at where that $2 million will be spent.
Right.
That has so far been allocated $2 million for the capital outlay. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So with the understanding that when we come to capital outlay discussion, that there be some consideration for this type of equipment, move to adopt the $17,854,693 at this time. And that's a motion.
Second.
Motion made to adopt the $17,854,000 by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor say aye, opposed no. Motion carries 3-0. Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you very much.
Okay, now we go into our Public Works area. The first is the Appraiser's Office. They are asking for right around $101,000 above the flat budget. Wait, that doesn't look right. I'm sorry, it's not that. It's 80. Yeah. A little less than 80,000. I'm sorry, I was incorrect on that.
Steve Bauman, County Appraiser. And recognizing that this is a tough budget year, again, I would like to amend the amount of increase or offer a reduction in the amount of increase to only approximately $58,000. And that will be primarily to hire a GIS analyst for our GIS department. Our GIS resources are being stretched with the amount of activity that we see countywide. This isn't just an appraiser's office employee, this is a full county employee. I also brought along our GIS coordinator, Lee Allen, to discuss the need for adding this additional position.
Morning, Commissioners. Lee Allen, GIS Coordinator. I promise I didn't pay Megan to bring my name up earlier. That presentation has been pushed off a few times, so. As Mr. Bauman explained, although GIS is funded under the Appraiser's Office, we are a true enterprise system. We have at least 14 departments, if not more, that rely on our the information, data, and applications that we maintain. That's internally. As far as externally, we also support local fire departments, the public, provide information and data to state agencies and other county agencies. 2016 has been, it was actually great for geographic information systems in general. The county adopted one system, the cartograph system, which is a GIS-centric system. You have to have the GIS component for a cartograph to function. Another thing the county did was with the New World system that the public safety uses. When we updated versions to that, the new version relies heavily on GIS to function. So anytime that a call is entered by a 911 dispatch, anytime that a case is entered, the GIS powers the addressing behind that. And without proper addressing in that system, it causes lots of problems. Another item in 2016 is with regard to 911, next generation 911 is coming, and that's going to allow the 911 center to process text, to process videos, a lot of other things besides just a hard line and just a call. So there is a statewide initiative that quarterly we supply our data to the state, and we're required to keep that up to date. As we move forward into 2018, The system that the 911 uses now with the phone numbers, it's called the MSAG. I don't want to get too heavily into it, but basically it's a table of addresses and ranges. That is going away, and it's going to be replaced by data coming from our GIS system. And we have to have that almost perfect in order to do that. So given those big projects, and then just support of everyone else, we really just need another employee that has a very high level of responsibility. This position will require 3 to 5 years of higher responsibility in GIS experience. It requires a degree, and not to keep up with the Joneses, but when you look at other county agencies and other agencies across the state, we have less GIS positions than some of even the smaller agencies across the state. And I'm very proud of the fact that our website and what the public sees and uses is at the highest level. As you look across the state and you talk to anybody that deals with public records information, I get comments all the time of how ours is just incredible compared to a lot of other counties. So I don't want to lose the customer service that we have to our internal employees and to the public. But with these applications that are coming on and new things coming on all the time, we're being spread very, very thin. And to maintain, I think we can do, to do anything more than just maintain is extremely difficult. So, answer any questions you might have.
Questions for Lee?
No. It's very well appreciated, everything that, how many departments in public service.
Well, and I support this because it has application across so many different departments. And one question would be, what's the interaction between the City of Topeka and Shawnee County and their departments?
Most of our interaction is supplying data back and forth. We openly share data so that, like, our property data goes directly into their system, so we're sharing data back and forth. As far as their staffing, I made sure to check into that. Last year, they gave out a proposal, to the city council or to the city manager to increase their staffing from 8 to 12, and that was their maintenance level proposition. Their proposition for growth increased from 8 to 18. A lot of what they do is centered around their utilities and their work management system that they have in place for all of their utilities and all the departments to use things. Where we can, we really try to share things as much as possible, but as far as having staff that could possibly be interchanged, they're also looking to add more staff. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yes. Thank you. I have any other questions? I have any other questions for you, Lee. Thanks.
Is there a motion?
Motion to increase by $58,000.
I'm going to second, again, because it has application across multiple departments and some benefits, definite benefits. So I will second.
Motion made to increase by $58,000 by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item, please.
The Planning Department is asking for a $64,000 increase over the flat budget.
Commissioner, I know
Yes.
that at least 50,000 of that was included for the comprehensive
Yes,
plan.
yes, just about 57,000
Okay.
was what was in the budget
Right.
for 17 for consulting
And we had carried that over
from the prior year.
right,
from 16.
right. So I'll make a motion to carry that over, to include that in this next year's budget, fully knowing that that's not going to follow or cover any anticipated cost. We have discussion of a comprehensive plan. I know
Okay.
that that's not going to cover it, but.
I'm looking for that exact amount.
56,942.
Thank you.
That would be a motion.
I'll make a substitute motion that we maintain at 277, 278.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Archer to maintain, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item, please.
Next department is Public Works. They are asking for approximately $200,000 increase.
Question for
Yes.
Tom. I know that in that cost was included some dollars for salt sheds, 100,000.
Yeah, actually, the budget that was submitted was actually flat,
So it had.
except for the salary increases.
Okay.
Last year's budget had some in there for some, from salt sheds and equipment sheds. We have more sheds, buildings like that we believe need to be continued on. So yeah, that was 100. Where the other $100,000 is coming from, I guess I'm not sure. The difference between the budget that was requested and the starting budget. So I'm hoping it's not overtime. Last year, overtime was cut, and fortunately, this first half of the winter, we had hardly any snowstorms. We have heavy snowstorm. That's what overtime budget is used for, is primarily for emergency services. So, but yeah, the budget that was submitted was flat except for salary increases. But that did include, last year did include some 100,000 allocated for, like I said, a salt shed and equipment shed. So.
I'm going to make a motion to increase Public Works by $100,000. And essentially because I know what a good job we do with our roads and bridges, and as opposed to another governing unit within our area, that's important to our citizens. So I'm going to make a motion to increase that by $100,000.
Second.
Motion made to increase by $100,000 by Commissioner Archer, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries 3-0.
And our last department is Register of Deeds. She is not asking for an increase.
Motion to maintain.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Archer, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries 3-0.
So as a summary, that leaves you with $10,130 if you want to maintain the current mill levy. Now, that's an estimate, of course, based on the appraised values in June, but
But all
That's-
the requests that came in were at 109
$109 million.
109 million. And what we have right now is 105 million.
Yes.
Any items you'd like to review, discuss further? Commissioners, Commissioner Cook.
If we could have the elections commissioner maybe come back with us, I know that he's returned. Have you and your staff had a chance to look over the proposal?
We did.
Do you have any thoughts or?
I do. I think that it's clear by statute. I've never questioned it, that the county commission has the authority to set the election commissioner's salary, so I understand that. Same thing with auto. I mean, that's your call as to what that's set at. I do think statutes are pretty clear as it relates to staffing levels, that's my call. But again, I do want to say, I think it's important that we work with HR or anyone. If you've got ideas and we can find a way to make them work, I'm always willing to have that conversation. And let's separate a couple things out. One, the budget is one discussion because it's a planning document, but there's also the real-time execution of these things. Always happy to sit down with you, with anyone, or HR. If there's a way to improve it, I'm fine with that. We need to do that. I'm fine with finding those opportunities. So again, as it relates to employee overtime, and those kinds of issues, either in the office or temporary employees, again, I'm happy to work with it. I do think that statutorily that's my call. The same thing with board workers. There is a statute that says you either work basically a half of an election day or a full election day. There is no 2 hours on, 2 hours off as an option by statute. So I think, again, that's my call as to how those get set. But there's a specific statute on that we have to follow. So, and we do have some people that work split shifts. They work 7-hour shifts, but we can't do 2 on, 2 off, 2 on, 2 off. It's not allowed by law. So I think those are my comments.
I guess where we were at is your request was $330,000 more than what we had started with. We increased that by $138,000, leaving us with a difference of $200,000 between the two bodies. And whether or not,
As I think I see it, we're talking about, I don't believe you've included the actual contract obligations that we have, and maybe I'm wrong.
Yes, we have.
By starting with your requested budget in this, that has been included in there.
Okay, I wasn't clear from the conversation, and I haven't seen a document yet, so just trying to be
Well, no,
clear.
this starts with your requested amount. Your requested amount included those contracts.
$30,000 for Elvis, $186,000 for maintenance of equipment. That was your
Okay.
number.
Okay.
Additional questions for the Elections Commissioner?
and Andrew, I just want to give you every opportunity if there are items on your budget outside of your salary and the car allowance that you think that you would be able to reduce.
I think for planning purposes and budget purposes, we've come up with numbers that we think are fairly accurate. Again, I would emphasize the big extra cost for us in the office is the additional software and equipment costs. So that's what's driving the increase.
Well, and just a, okay, all right. Maybe a question for Betty.
Yes.
The Elections Commissioner budget, the actual amount spent in 2016 was $1,410,460.
Yes.
The proposal would have a budget of $1,472,081. Is that correct?
Let me go back up there. Yes.
So it would be more than his actual expenses in 2016.
Yes, it'd be 62,000 more. Or 61,000, some change.
Other questions or comments? Commissioner? Commissioner Bueller? Anything you want to review again?
The parts that are always going to, I think, come to our cost expenses go, if we, Vallejo, TARC, Health Access, trying to be preventative in our services. I know that we have $10,130 left. We have far more needs than we have funds. But I would like for us to consider putting some of those remainders back into mental health or preventative services.
I don't know if I'd be supportive of that. We've
10,000 is pretty
well, and
pretty dicey as
we've
far as the numbers
placed
go.
300,000 with the jail.
Yeah.
I too am concerned about mental health and how we in this community address mental health. I would hope that it would be more preventive than getting it at the jail level. And I know that Brian and others are working for a comprehensive review of everything. We're not there yet, but yeah, I don't know if that's going to help much.
Other thoughts? Commissioners? Are we done?
I think maybe we're done for...
I think we're done. I think we're finished. I think this is, nobody ever gets exactly what they want. Nobody gets everything that they want. It just doesn't happen. I mean, I have things on here that I didn't get, and I'm sure you didn't get a second for things you wanted. But at some point, we have to adopt the budget, and I think I'm ready to now.
Okay. Is that a motion to adopt the budget?
Would you like, let me show you exactly where this would be.
What do you mean, Betty?
Where the mill levy would be. It would be at 48.339. That would be the estimated mill levy. It would be a decrease of 0.006.
And I'm sure Tim will come up with a number that says, for a $100,000 house, we'll save 2 cents.
There you go.
Okay. Motion to approve the 2018 budget by Commissioner Bueller.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries 3-0. Thank you all. Next item, please.
Administrative communications.
Administrative communications.
Commissioners, Town Block, Public Works and Solid Waste. Now, after all that fun,
It's not done.
I actually bring good news today
Yay.
regarding Public Works. Yesterday, the south portion of our Urish Road project from 17th to 21st was open to traffic around noon yesterday. So 3 days ahead of schedule, which was, we're thrilled about that. They still are working on some grading and things on the outside, but that south portion is open now to traffic between 17th and 21st. The north portion from 17th to Huntoon is still ongoing, and that is to be completed around mid-December. But the better news is at our progress meeting with our contractor at Willow Bridge this week, they made some tremendous progress this week and last week. We have now set a date, an official date and time for opening of the Willow Bridge, which will be Monday, August 28th at noon, which is a little over 3 months ahead of schedule. And as you know, we're probably running about $6 million under our projected budget. So that, honestly, that project has gone about as well as I think it probably could have. There's always issues, we now have the contractor has given us a date and a time. We will be having a ribbon cutting. We'll be sending out invitations to the key project stakeholders. And we're going to try to get some kind of ceremony, I guess, put together for that. Keep in mind, engineers are putting that ceremony together, so it may not be it may not be the really fun ones that you've attended before, but yeah, it'll be on schedule, noon. So anyway, that is really good news. I could not be more pleased with how that project's gone and with the contractor and with the whole team from figuring out how to do it, how to fund it, commission, railroad, Wabunsee County, KDOT, so many school districts, Village of Willard. Just hope I'm not forgetting anyone, but there's utilities, property owners. There's been a lot of people involved in this, and Finney and Turnipseed did a wonderful job, or is doing a wonderful job. Still not done yet, but the bridge will be open Monday, August 28th at noon.
Can you contact the school district just so they're...
Yeah, we will.
Make sure that they know for those early morning routes on the 28th that it won't be open yet.
Yeah.
By the afternoon it will.
Yeah.
So, okay.
So,
All right.
that's all I
Very
have.
good news. Awesome.
Thank you for mentioning the team. It was a team effort. I just wish you could do something about 21st Street. Next.
Randy Luby, Parks and Recreation. That's kind of hard to follow. For that, I thought I had a nice event all planned to invite everybody out to. We do have an Eclipse Watch Party on Monday at our Azura Trails at Skyline Park, the highest point in Shawnee County or Topeka. The gates open at 11 and it'll go to 2 p.m. We do have a guided nature hike starting at 11:30 if you're interested in that. WIBW will be providing safety glasses up to about 50 pairs. We recommend the public try to get their own before then. WIBW will be out tomorrow night at 5 p.m. at Tin Man Circle, and they were giving out 400 pairs, 2 per car. But anyway, looking forward to this once-in-a-lifetime event. Hope to see everybody there.
Thank you, Randy. That's a big deal.
Good morning, Commissioners. Justin Gregory, Kansas Expo Center. Tonight we are hosting the third Thursday Luau Party, music by Jake Stone. Also welcoming the Capital City Dog Cluster Dog Show to the Expo Center for the next 10 to 12 days. And then the Kansas Buckskin Association joins us for their 4th and final show of the year. On a separate note, Sheriff Jones and I will be at the North Topeka Rodeo this weekend at the Saddle Club out on 72nd and Topeka Boulevard. Sheriff Jones is joining me in the pony hop race on Saturday night. Rodeo is Friday night at 8 p.m. and Saturday night at 8 p.m. I have brought some free tickets that anybody would like to attend this event and see that it's a great showing of community togetherness and support in the city of Topeka. I will leave the tickets on the front desk.
Excellent. Thank you.
Questions?
Jeff.
Hi, Carol Marple. Awesome news about the Willard Bridge. That's awesome. And I want to thank the commissioners for funding the noxious weed department, and I hope that we'll be able to keep it as we know it. And I have decided that I needed to be a better informed taxpayer, and I've been paying attention to the budget, which leads me to some questions. So, I'm sorry, I want to bring the budget back up again. I looked at past budgets, and it just left me with a lot of questions, so I wanted to ask them, because I felt like I needed to know, because I gripe about my taxes, but if I don't understand, then I really can't gripe well. So I wanted to share the same paper that I looked at with you folks.
If you can make sure you give one to the clerk.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I've got one for Debbie. I went back to 2012 and looked, and I gave you my copy. Can I borrow yours for a minute? I guess I didn't make that many copies. What kind of confused me, and I saw this in several years, but I thought I would just bring the proposed budget for 2017. I see that we had a budget of $103 million. That was our budget. But down here, we have capital outlay for $30 million. I didn't understand that, because I thought we talked you talked about $1 million for capital outlay, and it shows the total expenditures would be $134 million. So how does that work?
That's why we have Betty.
That amount, the way the state form works, that amount is what the reserves are. If you look at the very beginning of the page where it says unencumbered cash balance January 1, that is the exact same amount. So you show your cash balance, which would be our reserve amount, you add all the revenues, you subtract all the expenditures, and then this is the amount you have left. The way their form works, it has to zero out.
Okay.
So that's it.
So my next question, I guess, is for Betty. Today, what are our cash reserves that we have?
I don't have that right in front of me, but it's about 30 million. We just received our audit reports, and it's about
So we
about the
didn't
same.
add any for 2017?
We added a very small amount for 2016. This is the audit for the 2016. For 2017, what we have budgeted is that we will expend all of our revenue, and that the budget would stay at the same level. Now, you know, that's what we have budgeted. There may be additional revenue that comes in. There may be the expenditures may be a little less than we anticipated. For 2016, those expenditures that had not been spent, we transferred to the capital outlay fund so that we would have that available, that money available for capital outlay needs. So the way that we budget this is that the revenue and the expenditures zero out if everything came in as we plan.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
To a point. Okay, so if we're just, the $30 million came from 2016, how much are we going to have in our reserve account? When do we determine that it's excessive? Because I sat here and I listened, and there were I thought, some good things that we needed to add to the budget, which was stated we didn't have the money. But if we have $30+ million in the reserve.
So you want us to start spending our reserves? Is that what you're saying? I think that's foolish.
I have to disagree. I'm not saying spend $30 million.
Well, you said start spending reserves.
But
And
you don't.
we have a balanced budget each year, and we try to. We never know exactly how revenues are coming to come in. We never know exactly how expenses are going to come in, but we match the revenue and the expense dollars. And I think to start dipping into reserves is a foolish thing to do, if that's what you're suggesting.
Did you say
Commissioner Cook?
I think that, if you look at where we were at in 2012 compared to 2017, or 2016's year, our cash reserves were declining, and this commission made a commitment to increasing our cash reserves to a healthy level. The goal now is to maintain that healthy level, not to continue to add to it, and that's what you see in the 2017 budget, is we're not adding any more money to the reserves, but maintaining the reserves that we have. If we were to have an economic downturn like we had in 2008, and if you look back historically, the County Commission built the reserves up, and in a very short time, those reserves were nearly all depleted. And the Commission at that time had made a conscious decision that they had two choices: deplete the reserves or raise taxes when you're in an economic crisis. And rather than raise the taxes and cause further economic crisis, that Commission had depleted reserves. So this got us back. It took us 5 years to get us back to where we were at, so where we have a healthy balance and a healthy rainy day fund.
Yeah, exactly.
I would just also mention, as you say, a rainy day fund, one major natural disaster could hit these reserves significantly. Just, one natural disaster. Also, another issue is our bond rating. That's something we've got to be very aware of. As if our bond rating would go down, our interest rates go up significantly, and it's harder to sell those bonds. So that's something we have got to also be very aware of, and to maintain those bond. Right now, our bond rating, the last one we received, said our reserves are at a healthy level, and it's very important to maintain them at a healthy level.
I'm not disagreeing that you have to have a reserve. I believe it was $9 million in 2012. And I guess my question would be, what is a healthy level? Since 2013, our property values have gone up every year. So even though you're actually decreasing the mill levy a tiny bit, I believe that the property values are probably going to go up this year, so our taxes will go up.
If your appraisal goes up, your property taxes. If
Exactly.
your appraisal goes down,
It
your
has not
taxes
gone
go-
down for the it has not gone down since 2013.
certain properties have, and there's an appeal process. If you don't like your valuation, you appeal it, and it may go down.
The last time Ben and I appealed something, we went in and appealed it. They shook our hands, and we went clear to the top. Shook our hands, thanked us very much, and they raised it. So I never appeal my taxes. It's not, I never do. But I would be, I more than understand a reserve. I farm. You have to have that.
Right.
But I guess, again, my question is, what do we term a healthy reserve? And what was our bond rating, say, like in 2012 versus what it is today? How much has it gone up?
It has increased some, and before it had a negative, sorry, I'm supposed to be up here talking. It has improved, and at that point in time, we had a negative outlook on our reserves, that they were looking at it, and if the reserves did not go up, it would go down further. So the negative outlook has been taken off, and,
It's just, okay. But do
go ahead.
they dig us if we have too much in our reserve? Is that a possibility?
I don't know.
I mean, because we're the government, we're not a business,
One of the things that my office is working on is a policy on what our reserves would be, a percentage on the different reserves and the different funds, and that is something we have been working on and will bring to you in the future.
Very good, very good.
Well, like I say, when I was looking and I saw that we've added considerable amount every year to the reserve, and we have the sheriff's office, we have mental health, we have a lot of things, and I'm not by any means advocating to deplete it, but maybe if you didn't put $1 million in there and spent some more for services for the taxpayers,
Well,
It's just, as I said, I'm trying to learn about the budget, because if I'm going to gripe about my taxes, I better understand it, and that's where I'm at.
All right, and I appreciate that, and I just, I will say this, that we budget very conservatively as far as estimating revenues and expenses. Some things you can't anticipate. When we refinance a bond and save money, when we renegotiated the Expo Center deal and saved taxpayers $500,000. I mean, a lot of things you can't tell in advance, and that will add to the surplus for the year. Okay.
I understand that completely, because at Harvest time, we sold wheat for over $5 a bushel. I think if you look at it today, you're probably going to see that it's around 3-something. You cannot budget agriculture if you're a farmer. And I truly understand that, and I truly understand the need for a reserve. But there comes a point in time that you have so much in your reserve that you're not being as efficient as you could be with what you're doing.
Okay.
And that's my only comment.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you for your comments. Anyone else for administrative communications? Okay. Commissioner Bueller.
Commissioners, I did have the opportunity to attend the Military Affairs Council luncheon yesterday, and just thank you to the Chamber for doing this luncheon. It was a really nice event, and honored, let me see here, Lieutenant Colonel Elliot Potter. He had a very interesting story, and he was very appreciative of the award. So it's just a very nice event, and appreciate them doing it. So
Very good. Thank you. Commissioner Cook?
Yesterday, there was a dedication of another ghost bike along the trail in remembrance of a biker that had been killed in an accident with a vehicle. And just reminding everybody that our trails are a great asset to our community, but please be safe.
And school's back in session.
School's back in
Another
session.
reason to be careful and be safe. Next item, please.
Executive session?
There's not a need. We're officially adjourned. Thank you for coming.